was Joe Kidd.
Nobody told them they could not crash a real train through a real saloon, so they did it anyway. And the legendary director who made this film would later call it his biggest regret. This is Joe Kidd, the 1972 Western nobody remembers and nobody can quite forget. When John Sturges signed on to direct, he was a legend. The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape. But by 1972, something had shifted. He later admitted Joe Kidd was the film he was least proud of, not because it was bad, but because he had made it on autopilot. He showed up, framed shots, called action. His heart was not in the dust anymore.
It was Joe Kidd, and Joe Kidd is...
Clint Eastwood was not the first choice. The studio offered it to Steve McQueen, who wanted creative control. The studio said no. Paul Newman passed without reading it, so the role landed with Eastwood, who did not love the script either. Too thin, too clean, too much hero, and not enough man. But he had just started his own production company and needed projects. He took it, rewrote his dialogue on yellow legal pads, and turned Joe Kidd into the anti-hero he knew audiences would follow. The script came from Elmore Leonard, who had already written Hombre and 3:10 to Yuma. But Joe Kidd was written fast, under pressure. The studio changed things without consulting him, softening the violence and rewriting the villain's backstory. Leonard later said the soul got lost somewhere between the typewriter and the screen. Eastwood and Sturges did not get along. Not a loud feud, just quiet, simmering tension through the entire shoot. Eastwood questioned shot choices, rewrote lines without approval, suggested alternate takes. Sturges, who had worked with Spencer Tracy and Burt Lancaster, did not appreciate being second-guessed. Eastwood reportedly told a crew member, "John is phoning it in." He does not care. They shook hands on the last day like strangers and never worked together again. The train scene was not in the original script. The climax was supposed to be a straightforward saloon shootout. But during location scouting in Tucson, someone noticed an old forgotten train on a nearby track. A stunt coordinator had an idea. What if we crashed it through the saloon? The producers thought it was insane. Eastwood loved it. They reinforced the train, rigged the saloon with explosives, and had exactly one chance. When that locomotive barreled through the wooden facade at 40 miles per hour, the entire crew stood in silence. Then someone started clapping. It became the movie's defining image. Years later, an interviewer asked Sturges about the films he was proudest of. He named The Magnificent Seven and The Great Escape. Then the interviewer asked about Joe Kidd. Sturges went quiet. Then he said, "That is the one I made for money. The one I made because I had a mortgage. Maybe making something you are indifferent to is the real sin." Was there anything he liked? The train, he finally said. Crashing that train through the saloon. That was fun. That was pure. A small crack in the regret, but it was something. Subscribe 90s Playback for daily new videos and press the bell icon so you don't miss any update.